I kept stopping and I kept shaking my head. Thank you, Maureen Marfell, your generosity. 10 people get to become members of Elimination. So, because what those depositions reveal is something that should concern every American who cares about education, every American who cares about history, about competence in government. These are the people who are tasked or should have been tasked with rooting out what they call DEI from federal grants, from cultural programs, research funding, schools are trying to remove the books from schools, libraries, community organizations. And they are deciding what projects get labeled ideological. And so it's kind of like people trying to explain to you what journalism is. This is like people trying to explain to you now what diversity, equity, inclusion is, and they have no idea. And so they get to decide which projects get to be labeled ideology or get to be stamped with the, DEI, liberal ideology, discriminatory to white people, but mostly what they mean is white men. They're deciding what funding gets cut. They are deciding what parts of American history are apparently dangerous. And so I'm not going to yell and scream this morning because I think I need to, moderate here because this is really, really, really important. And I don't know if you'll think it's sexy, right? But it's unbelievable. So, because when these people were asked a very simple question under oath, the kind of question that anyone leading a crusade against DEI should be able to answer, they struggle to define what DEI actually even means. You ready? Andy, the struggle.
How do you interpret DEI?
There was the EO explicitly laid out the details. I don't remember it off the top of my head.
It's okay. I'm asking for your understanding of it.
Yeah, my understanding was exactly what was written in the EO.
Okay. So can you?
Okay, EO executive order.
In the EO.
So right now, do you have an understanding of what DEI is?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your understanding as you sit here today in this deposition?
Well, it was exactly what was written in the EO. And so anytime that we would look at a grant through the lens of complying with an executive order, we would just refer back to the EO and assess if this grant had relation to it.
Okay. But I guess stepping back from your methodology strictly in terminating the grants, do you have an understanding as you sit here today of what DEI means?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your understanding of what it means?
Well, it is exactly what was written in the EO.
Okay, so
and I don't have the EO in front of me, but that was we would always reference back to the EO and make sure that this grant was in compliance with the EO.
I understand that. Okay, but I'm not asking necessarily about what was in the EO. I'm asking very specifically about your present understanding of what of DEI. Do you have a present understanding of DEI?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain what that present understanding is?
Well, it is just easier for me to be referencing back to the EO.
Are you refusing to answer the question?
I'm not refusing to answer the question.
Okay.
I just feel that referencing back to the verbatim executive order was the best way for us to capture all of the DEI language. And so I think giving a high-level overview of what I could relay as DEI is not going to do justice what was written in the EO.
And that's okay. We can look at the EO as well.
Great.
I'm asking you this is a deposition. I'm asking you questions. You're under oath. And you're required to answer them. So what is your understanding of what DEI means?
Well, I think I would say, again, that I would go back to the EO to make sure I'm capturing enough. I don't feel comfortable saying a high-level overview because it is such a big bucket, and there's just a lot of pieces of the puzzle.
What's a part of the bucket?
Gender fluidity, sort of promoting, promoting subsets of LGBTQ plus that might alienate another part of a community. Again, it was just easier for us to reference back into the EO.
Okay, so
And I don't want to give you a broad overview because it's like, at the end of the day, it is capturing, it is all encompassing in the EO. It's how we did our methodology.
right. Do you
Everything is EO.
always refer to EOs to gain an understanding of words used in your typical daily vernacular?
Objection.
What do you mean?
You say that you have an understanding of what DEI means. And when I ask you, you say you need to reference the EO. Do you need to reference EOs to define every word you use in your everyday life?
Objection.
No.
Okay, so what's stopping you from defining DEI to your understanding as you sit here today on January 28th, 2026?
It wouldn't be capturing enough of how big the topic is. DEI is a very broad structure.
Now, now you see why I was up. I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm struggling this morning because there are hours and hours and hours and hours of this. This person is in charge. I mean, think about that for a moment. The people who are policing diversity can't really clearly explain what diversity means. The very program that they are trying to police, diversity, equity, and inclusion, he can't do it without the executive order, which shows you that the executive order, which probably came from Project 2025, is just written from that, right? More than likely, is that they are just going with the directive. And that's the reason. The executive order is the script. Anything that has to do with this, you root it out. This is clear racism. Let's just say it for what it is. This is clear racism. This is clear white supremacy. This is clear misogyny. This is clear anti-Semitism. I'll get to the whole Jewish part. I'll get to the women part. All of it. It's clearly that's what it is. And so when I tell you guys, and maybe this will give you a little bit of hope, that the truth will make you free. The truth always comes out. It always comes out in the rinse. And that's why I am so clear on even what is going on with me, that one day you will be watching something like this going, damn. And I'll be sitting back going, told you. The people attacking inclusion cannot explain why inclusion is harmful. Cannot. They're labeling history as ideological. They can't explain what ideology they are talking about, especially as it relates to Black history in this country. They say it's bad. They want to ban it. They don't want it taught. They don't want it to have any influence on any kind of policies. They can't even explain the ideology that they are talking about because it goes beyond ideology. It's white nationalism, but I'll let them explain. Okay, Black history. Are you ready for this one? All right, everybody, I want you to sit back because here we go. Roll it.
Do you agree with ChatGPT's assessment here that a documentary is DEI if it explores historical events that significantly impacted Black civil rights?
Yes.
Okay. Why would that be DEI?
It's focused on a singular race. It is not for the benefit of humankind. It is focused on a specific group of, or a specific race, here being
Pause.
Black.
It's not for the benefit of humankind. The history of Black people in this country is not for the benefit of humankind. Now, he said it. I didn't. He said it. Go on.
Why would learning about anti-black violence not be to the benefit of humankind?
Objection.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, then what are you saying?
I'm saying it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
You said it's not to the benefit of humankind, right?
Is that what I said?
Yeah. Could you read back the witness's response about benefits to humankind?
So they're going to read it back. He said it's not what I'm saying. I didn't say that. Is that what I'm saying? Did I say that?
Question, why would that be DEI? Answer, it's focusing on a singular race. It is not for the benefit of humankind. It is focused on a specific group or a specific race, here being black.
So what do you mean by not for the benefit of humankind?
That's a very subjective. The way that I phrased it there wasn't exactly what I meant. It is focused on a specific subset of race, and therefore it relates to DEI.
Okay.
I'm not suggesting that this is not for the betterment of humankind. That was a misphrasing.
That was, as Mark Wayne Mullen would say, that was a misspoke, according to him. Now, anytime that you have to use the definition of something, the name of something in the definition, it means you're not really explaining what it is. This is DEI. And so I wonder if in this moment he realized, because this is a young man, I wonder if in the moment he realized, like, damn, ooh. If there was any thought, maybe probably not, I don't know, oh, well, wow, I don't know what I was doing. Maybe I have been bamboozled. Maybe there's some wrong thinking. I don't know. What do you guys think? You think that, Andy, do we have the women's thing too and the Jewish thing? So we'll get to those, but so that's where, so it gets, if it could get worse, it does. When they got more specific, the entire thing started to fall apart. Programs about Jewish history were flagged as DEI.
Why is a documentary about Holocaust survivors?
In luge, every little detail matters. Races can be decided by a thousandth of a second. The last thing we need to be thinking about.
Inherently discriminatory to focus on this specific group.
It's inherently discriminatory to focus on what specific group?
The gender-based, so females during the Holocaust.
And you believe that that's inherently discriminatory?
I'm just saying that's what it's focused on.
Sure.
And this is related to DEI.
Right. But you just used the term inherently discriminatory. What did you mean by that?
It's focusing on DEI principles, gender being one of them.
So a documentary that's about women would be DEI.
Objection.
Is that fair to say?
No.
Tell me why what I just said isn't DEI, but what you just said is DEI.
Objection.
It's a Jewish, specifically focused on Jewish cultures and amplifying the marginalized voices of the females in that culture. It's inherently related to DEI for those reasons.
Okay. Because it's about Jewish culture.
Plus marginalized female voices during the Holocaust, gender-based violence.
Now, why would marginalized females, as they said, or women during the Holocaust, how would that be gender biased, and how would that be, what would that, shouldn't, I want to know about that. I want to know about that because I think it's interesting. And I also think it's, if you don't learn from your history, then you are what? Destined to repeat it. And I want to know the history, how women were treated during the Holocaust, how women were treated, how they learned, the Nazis learned from America anti-Black racism, and they used that model during the Holocaust. I want to know all those things because that's really important. And the fact that they're not curious, these people don't have a curious mind. I think that people who think like that, they just are sort of led around. And again, a young person, but damn.
DevGovOps stands for.
It's worse. There's more. I'm not done. There's more because not only did these DOGE guys, and we're going to talk about Big Balls and all that, remember him? But not only is that happening in this deposition, but also they are accused of, I don't know if it's highly classified or top secret or just misusing the information and sending it over channels and emails that have not been approved by the government and that are unsecure, not secure. So it gets worse. But this is why I was up. Okay? And this is why, I mean, quite frankly, this is why I've been, and this is a word from our sponsors, that I have been working on my sleep routine. This is why I want to thank BioOptimizers for being a sponsor and helping to keep this show going. Because lately, when I don't sleep well, because I don't a lot with all of this stuff that is going on, you hear it the next day when I'm doing the show. So I started paying more attention to what actually helps me wind down at night. A lot of people kept telling me about this magnesium breakthrough from BioOptimizer, so I finally decided to give it a try. And what makes this one different is most magnesium supplements only have 1 or 2 forms of magnesium. Magnesium breakthrough contains 7 forms, plus cofactors that help your body actually absorb it and use it. So for me, the goal is simple: sleep deeper, recover better, wake up feeling ready for the day. And the good news is there's no risk. BioOptimizers offers a 365-day money-back guarantee. So you have plenty of time to see how it works for you. So go to biooptimizers.com/DonLemon. Use the code DON15 for 15% off of your order. That's biooptimizers.com/DonLemon. Okay, you got to eat right too, right? You know, Tim and I cook a lot at home, and one night recently I ran out of olive oil. I know, it's like, where's my Graza? While we were making dinner, and that's when I realized just how picky I've become about olive oil since we started using Graza. Graza is different because their olive oil is always fresh, never blended, and they even put the harvest date right on the bottle, which most brands don't do. I keep Sizzle in the kitchen for everyday cooking. That's the one I use when I am sauteing vegetables or roasting something in the oven. And then there's Drizzle, their finishing oil, perfect for salads, grilled fish, or just dipping bread. And they also have Frizzle. That's for high heat cooking. It's a high heat cooking oil for grilling and frying and all of that. When friends come over for dinner, those bottles are always on the counter front and center because what's in them tastes amazing. So go to graza.co, use the code LEMON for 20% off of your first order. So thank you so much to our sponsors. Okay, back now to our DOGE guys. Do we have any of this, of the previous young man, do we have him any more on women's issues or other issues? Are there other sound bites from him, Andy?
No, that's it from him.
That's it. Okay. So this is another DOGE person who is being questioned about emails that were sent to his supervisor that did not go through the proper channels. And your information, the American people's information, being compromised because of it. Roll it.
So earlier we talked about some of your communications with Mr. Davis, including, in the context of you emailing yourself, I think you were saying, and then using that email on Signal to send to Mr. Davis. Do you remember talking about that with Mr. Robinson earlier?
I do.
Okay. Walk me through that process exactly.
There was a weekly scorecard as it was called, where we reported on savings across each agency. It was black text in an Excel spreadsheet file. That was downloaded. Steve preferred that to be sent over Signal. Signal is not on a government device, so we downloaded it and sent it to Steve on Signal.
Okay.
That was the extent of.
So Mr. Davis was not on a government device?
I don't know if he was on a government device or not. I know he preferred to receive the scorecard on Signal.
Okay. Have you ever, do you know whether Mr. Davis had a government email?
I believe he had an EOP email address that he did not use.
Okay. And you never communicated with him on that email address?
I'm sure I sent him an email or two, but it was incredibly infrequent.
So I understand sending Mr. Davis something off of email based on his request, but why did you email something to yourself first before sending it to Mr. Davis?
There was no other way to get the scorecard that we generated to Steve on Signal.
Okay. You can go directly from your government email to Signal?
Correct.
Why not?
I don't think GSA allowed the downloading of Signal, among many other apps.
Okay. So GSA didn't allow the downloading of Signal? Is that what you're saying?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. But you then sidestep that by sending documents to your personal phone so that you could then use Signal?
For the weekly scorecard, that was the process, yes.
And that didn't set any alarms about whether or not you should be using Signal to do government work? The fact that GSA didn't let you use Signal on your phone?
GSA didn't let you use a myriad of softwares that would have been common in a standard business. And so I don't know if Signal is representative of, I don't think Signal is a unique case, frankly. There were dozens of apps that weren't allowed on a government device.
Do you think that there's a reason that the government disallows using certain services on their devices?
I'm not sure.
Okay. You don't think it was because maybe they were concerned about data leaks or sharing information with people that shouldn't be receiving that information?
Objection.
I really don't know.
Okay. You have no idea why they would not allow Signal on government phones?
Objection.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know many government officials use Signal, so I'm not totally sure.
Okay. Do you think maybe it was for the maintenance of records that they don't allow Signal and auto delete app on government phones?
Objection.
Yeah, again, I don't know.
You really don't know?
Objection.
I really don't know.
Okay.
Okay. So you guys know how I say that these people think that they're always going to be in power and that they don't realize that one day they will be out of power and they are going to have to deal with the ramifications, because the president, while he's president, he may have complete immunity, but these people won't. The Kristi Noems of the world, and even beyond pardons, they think that everything is not. They can't be pardoned for everything. Some things are state crimes. They will find statutes in state laws to charge some of these people with. Some people will lose their law licenses and lose whatever licenses they have, their reputations. And so they don't realize that right now because they're following this sort of cult leader and they are blinded by ideology here. And even when, and just let me just get back to DOGE just for a second. Now I'll tell you. I'll go on. No, you can put that up, because even with all of that, the government is now investigating new claims that DOGE misused Social Security data. So there was someone in the comments that said, this whole DOGE thing was just a scheme to steal people's personal data and personal information. And a lot of people believe that. An internal government watchdog and members of Congress are separately investigating new allegations that a Department of Government Efficiency staffer potentially misused sensitive Social Security data. Social Security Administration's Inspector General notified the leaders of several House and Senate committees on March 6 that is reviewing an anonymous complaint on matters relating to the potential misuse of SSA, Social Security Administration data, by a former DOGE employee, among other allegations, according to a copy of the letter obtained by NPR. So according to if we go down a little bit, according to the Post's reporting, the former, meaning the Washington Post, the former DOGE employee claimed that at least one database was held on a personal thumb drive and claimed to have retained God-level access to SSA systems, the whistleblower alleged. The former staffer also allegedly told colleagues that they wanted to share the data with their private sector employer, the Post reported. NPR has not reviewed the whistleblower complaint. But Robert Garcia, the House Oversight Committee's top Democrat, called the allegations deeply disturbing and said that they show the Trump administration's callous disregard for safety and security of Americans' most sensitive information. So that's according to NPR. And then The Independent is reporting, again, this is a Washington Post report, but DOGE staffer had God-level Social Security access and expected Trump's pardon, whistleblower says. A former employer with the so-called Department of Government Efficiency alleged claim that he tapped into two sensitive Social Security Administration databases and intended to share the information with a private employer. That's according to an anonymous whistleblower complaint. Now, so some of the folks who are out of DOGE may not suffer any consequences or have the resources to avoid them indefinitely, but these young men don't. And, I'm kind of sorry that, Big Balls got the most press, the most ink, so to speak, the most headlines during this when all of this other nefarious stuff was going on. But he was part of it, right? It was all, because everyone was like, oh, it's Big Balls, whatever. And they were joking about what they talked about, or at least everybody was sort of intrigued about what they were talking about. And you're right, Jennifer Griffin, Dems need to run on accountability and affordability. Accountability and affordability. And so our information was in the hands of these young people who obviously have no idea of what they're talking about. They don't get the urgency, importance of what they were tasked with and the ramifications of being frivolous, handling frivolously the information. They don't understand the ramifications of that. And so they could end up in a world of trouble. And so there will be accountability, but will it be at the top or will it be the people who are carrying out the tasks? And I believe it will be the people who are carrying out the tasks. I believe my spidey sense, and I've been doing this for a long time. I believe it will be Pam Bondi, what's her name, Kristi Noem, and all of the people that are below them. Everybody basically below the presidential level. And unless you were appointed, and perhaps it could be some of the appointed people, but unless you were, you did not have to face a confirmation, unless you're an advisor, that's kind of a different thing. But if you were appointed and you got Senate and congressional confirmation, Pam, you in danger, girl. Kristi, you in danger, girl. And all the other people below, you in danger, girl. Don't be like, he's calling a girl. It's a line from a movie. Go see Ghost. You'll know what I'm talking about. That's what the young folks, well, not the young folks, us old folks say. Y'all in danger, girl and boys. In danger. In danger. And so I just want to get to the essence of this to make sure that you understand, because you saw what they said about programs about Jewish history. Those were flagged as DEI. Programs about women's history flagged as DEI. Programs about minority communities, DEI. but nothing about like white dudes. Nothing to address the cultural and societal and business and government and political advantages that white men have had, I shouldn't say for decades, their entire time that they have been on these lands. The entire time that when they stole the land from the Native Americans. And when lawyers asked the people involved in this why, their answers became vague. They were confused. You saw that, right? They're non-existent. Couldn't even using the actual term, the words that they were asked, using that and that, as the definition of what they were doing to explain what they were doing. And the guy's like, "Do you always go to the EO and executive order to try to figure out which language to use?" They couldn't understand that. That one staffer could not explain the criteria. Another, and I believe it was the same one, it couldn't explain why a Jewish cultural project would be considered ideological. And these people who are in, these are Republicans that they're putting in. These are.
So we're still a wholesale roaster. We supply coffee to other coffee shops and we help them lay out a plan and pick out equipment. And when we do, Webstrong is one of the first players on that list. You gotta get your paper supplies from Webstrong. You gotta get equipment from Webstrong. It's just a no-brainer.
Push that right-wing ideology and mindset to get to normalize it, not based on facts, not based on the history of the country, not based on any sort of logical, fair analysis and assessment of what this country should be paying attention to, focusing on, trying to correct. None of that. It couldn't explain what certain grants ended up on the chopping block at all. And the American people deserve transparency. And so this bothers me so much because they're trying to, the normalization of this, and which is one of the reasons, probably the main reason that I'm not in corporate media anymore, is because I fought against that normalization of people, election deniers, insurrection deniers, liars about what's just people coming on just to lie to people. That's why I hate when people get on and they just fight on these shows, and it's like, that's not productive. You're still giving a voice and in some ways normalizing this. You're giving a voice to lunatics, to bigots, to misogynists, to anti-Semites. And then to sit there was one woman, I saw a clip, and I know her. When Donald Trump put out that racist fucking video with the Obamas as apes, she said, "I don't think he's racist. He's not a racist." I was like, "Woman, are you out of your mind? Are you out of your fucking mind?" Anyone who thinks that is not sane. And so thank you. That I've gotten to the point that I was thinking overnight. That racism is not rational. That this white supremacy is not rational. This white nationalism is not rational. Even religious nationalism, it's not rational, especially if you are thinking about the constructs of our Constitution and the Bill of Rights and what we're supposed to be following, the separation of church and state, all of the things in the Constitution, that all the powers, even to go to war, should go through Congress, all of it. So none of this is rational. And by sitting around doing that, you're rationalizing these things. We are normalizing these things, and they should not be normalized. And so you get people like those young men that think it is that they can follow these directives because they're okay. And basically what they're doing, they're not in the military, but they are, in essence, following unlawful orders. But they are following irrational, illogical orders. And that's where we are. So those goons that are out on the street, detaining people without due process, following irrational, illogical, illegal orders. The people who are tasked with doing all of this based on a thought, or as Caroline Levitt would say, a feeling based on fact, but this is a feeling that's not based on any facts. They are following unlawful orders, carrying out unlawful, irrational, illegal orders. And so what you begin to see in moments like these is something that's very revealing. You see the difference between a slogan and an argument. Or as you see with people yelling on, oh, you're this, you're racist, he's not. There's a difference between a constructive conversation or a disagreement or whatever than a slogan and an argument. Because it's very easy to shout about DEI on television. It's very easy to turn it into a buzzword. It's very easy to tell people that diversity is the reason institutions are failing. But when someone asks you to define the very threat that you're talking about, when someone asks you to explain the harm, when someone asks you to show the evidence, suddenly the entire thing disappears. Your argument falls apart under the light of day. And this is why people don't want to go in front of those hearings. This is why people don't want to be deposed. This is why they're not allowing investigations in Minnesota, because under the light of day, under logical, legal scrutiny, it falls apart. And this war on DEI was never really about policy. It was never about merit. Look at those young men. Look at them. I keep hitting the desk, sorry, in my computer. Look at those young men. We don't live in a meritocracy. As Jen Griffin put in the comments a moment ago, I see them guys. Look, this is white male mediocrity on display. And people, there are people, trust me, because I've gone through it. You know, when I interviewed Musk and others, and I challenged them on their beliefs and what they say, what they've said publicly, what they say that they stand for, which is what a journalist is supposed to do. Somehow, I become the aggressor or the agitator or the activist just by doing an act of journalism and putting your words and wondering, well, if this is what you believe in, the goodness of people, then why aren't you trying to communicate with them? Because that's what the Lord says. So if you believe in this thing about race and all of this, so then tell me. Explain to me. That's what a journalist is supposed to do. But under the light of day and the correct questioning, it all falls apart. And that's what they're afraid of. It is fear. So we don't live in a merit-based society. I mean, Andy, I think my mic is off. Sorry. Is it working?
It's on. It's working.
Test, mic check. Okay. Because this isn't about merit. This is about resentment. This is about a feeling that someone who is not a white male, if they succeed, then something must be wrong. But if a black scholar gets a grant, if a Jewish historian receives some funding, if you expand women's programs, if institutions start to reflect the actual diversity of the country, then the system must somehow be rigged because I, as a white male, I am not succeeding. And that is what the Lord said. That is what the country and the Constitution says, that it's supposed to be me. That's what they believe. This country is built for me. It actually was. So that suspicion has been around in this country for a very long time, always, right? Especially since the minorities started to achieve and to gain some civil rights. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, even before Reconstruction, after Reconstruction. Oh, wait, we can't have the black folks voting. We can't have these women voting. We go, no. So then, that's what sparked the civil rights movement. That's when they started burning down black towns, black Wall Street, all of that. But what these depositions reveal, I believe, is how thin the logic behind this really is. Because when people, enforcing this ideology are asked to explain it, they cannot explain it. They cannot define the threat. They cannot articulate the principle. They cannot even explain the criteria being used to cancel funding. Now, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that and not know what you're talking about? And
Find your perfect tax expert, whatever your tax situation might be. Hand off your taxes to an expert who gets you with TurboTax Expert Full Service.
about that. Government grant information being fed to AI, into AI tools to identify programs connected to communities, people, culture, or history. And then those programs getting tagged, and then the funding decisions being made based on those tags. So that leads me to the new reporting that we have about the girls' school. Now, we talked about this in our editorial meeting. As a matter of fact, Peter brought it up that some of the information that led them astray in this may have been based on artificial intelligence or on ChatGPT, of them using artificial intelligence to identify sites. Do you have that, Andy? To identify the girls' school. They identified the girls' school as somehow being part of the Iranian, maybe the mullahs, or, that had to do with terrorism. But it has been a girls' school for a long time. And so that was the reporting this morning from, gosh, I can't remember his name, I believe at the New Yorker. So rather than artificial intelligence, rather than base it on real intelligence of people understanding what the history of this country is, that's what and basing the things that are happening at the war on real intelligence, people actually working on the ground, artificial intelligence. And maybe that's what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is instill artificial intelligence in us, an intelligence that is artificial, that goes against what we're seeing and what we're hearing with our own eyes and ears every single day, what history has taught us, what we've lived through. That's not the intelligence that you should operate from. The intelligence you should operate is an artificial one that we are giving you and setting up for you. Y'all don't hear me this morning, do you? The doors of the church are open. If you would like to join, I can tell you, if you want to join this particular church that's going to give you the truth and the facts every day, I urge you to go to donlemon.com, where you can become a member on YouTube, on Twitch, on Substack, and you can follow us everywhere. Today, we're not on Facebook. We got to work that out. I think it was because of some changes with coding and all that. But this is where, if you want to become a member and if you want others to join this church, then you should give some memberships if you can. If the church is listening, let the church say amen. And while all of this is happening, while we have this going on, we have Donald Trump. This fool is out there as these girls are dead in Iran, as 7 service members as of now have been killed and 150 or so have been injured. He is out there doing the double BJ dance. We got some music for that? Oh, we can't. Right? We'll get demonetized.
Just know it's
He's
YMCA playing.
You just know it. Young man, there's no need to feel down. This is the gayest president we've ever had. The gayest acting president we've ever had.